There's a saying that goes something like, don't look too closely at your enemy or you'll end up feeling bad for them. And honestly, that kind of seems like what's going on with a lot of these faking cases. Some of them not, but a lot of them can't even be classified as faking because they genuinely believe that they had it. Today we are going to be finding out how influencers on the internet can unfortunately, sometimes not even on purpose, influence people and specifically young people to fake disorders. I discovered DID when I was 12 in 2020 through Anthony Padilla's DissociaDID video and binged all of their videos while I was depressed during lockdown. I was going through, like a lot of people, an incredibly difficult time in my life. I wanted to unalive, I isolated, getting back into SH after being clean for years. I was introduced to the concept of PTSD through DissociaDID and started realizing that I had it. I've been diagnosed with nothing and refused to self-diagnose in any way. Trauma was resurfacing. Relatively shallow things like bullying and childhood emotional neglect. I followed quote-unquote systems on Instagram and joined Discord to finally be able to talk to people again. The servers were filled with unstable teenagers. It absolutely sucked. We were each other's therapists. They were constantly telling me how they wanted to unalive themselves, telling me about their SH, their ED, and there were a number of unalive scares and alleged attempts. One day, someone started saying that they had DID. I was constantly dissociating from myself, feeling empty and wanted to unalive. I even had one attempt. There was one night in the summer when my family and I were staying in a hotel. Before anyone mentions it, yes, disrespecting COVID guidelines, where it was too warm to sleep and I was feverish and in a delusional state. I knew that what I was doing was wrong. I got a notebook and wrote down the names, ages, and genders of my alters. There were initially 12. Children, adults, teens, 1 or 2 fictional characters. I definitely took a page out of DissociaDID's alter intro book. I created a new Discord account, joined the server, and immediately posted introductions for every one of my quote-unquote alters. For the next month, I lied about my life and my trauma. I would answer questions about DID that I knew nothing about. I've always had a privileged life and a stable household. Because I knew that DID could only have been caused by horrid trauma, I just made it up. I said that my mother was a Christian fanatic and that I got into a car accident. I felt horrible and paranoid that people would start finding out that I was lying. But to me, it seems like this was the only way out. I started weeding in actual things from my life. SH, wanting to unalive, body issues. I stopped being a character I played, and over time, the fake trauma was erased and replaced by my real, considerably less severe trauma. It was becoming me. And eventually, I was completely convinced that I actually had DID. I was addicted and obsessed with Discord. It became my entire life. My social and academic life crumbled. I would be role-playing as anime characters in class, on the bus, at home, everywhere. I had no hobbies except for Discord. I stopped making art and I had no friends or loved ones. Then came the system servers. I initially joined a handful and they were absolute cesspools of echo chambers, manufactured drama, and horrible people with horrible advice. A completely new world of people saying that they had 70, 100, or over 500 alters was revealed to me. At that point, having amassed around 30 alters and using plural kit with aesthetic, detailed descriptions of a decent number of my alters. The oldest people I met in the servers were 31, 30, and somewhere in their late 20s. All of them had this sense of entitlement about them. They were the oldest, the smartest, and they had the last word, and everyone listened to them. But they were the most immature and horrid people I had ever met. The 31-year-old constantly cried about how stressful owning a system server was, how they wanted to unalive themselves, finding ways to blame it on the teenage members. The 30-year-old alarmingly and illegally stalked a 16-year-old member by finding their legal name on their PayPal and contacting their parents because they had drama online. I remember 20-year-olds having DDLG It was a breeding ground for grooming. I was briefly a victim to it, being pressured into very sexual talk with someone who was older than me, who also groomed other young members into the same trap. There were also adults who I considered at the time as being rational. They would falsely correct you on medical aspects of the disorder you convinced yourself that you had, always with the same sense of entitlement and superiority because they were so knowledgeable. Everyone else was a teen like me, with something that was definitely wrong with them, but that thing was not being DID. We listened to everything the adults told us, and it was kind of sad. I met a lot of people who, if they had not fallen into the same self-diagnosis trap as I had, could have gotten the correct help they needed in real life and would have actually found real friends. We were all close, sharing secrets we told each other, shenanigans we did in general chat and movie nights. Our alters multiplied, as did our self-diagnoses. Our alters got more creative. If someone was using crazy pronouns, everyone else had to step up their game and do it as well. Absurdity isn't absurd anymore when everyone is doing it. There were also the so-called trauma Olympics. People dumping trauma on each other in attempt to one-up each other and be the sickest. I remember being pressured into drinking hard liquor in an attempt to show one of my friends that they were not alone and that there were others like them who were sick. However, some people were kind and would try to help each other by providing SH recovery resources and other things like that sort. DID requires any kind of trauma. Became DID requires severe trauma. So we deluded ourselves into thinking our trauma was severe enough to create DID. And the word abuse lost all meaning. Drama equals abuse. Questioning things equals abuse. Disagreeing equals abuse. Diagnosis was a gold star and a badge of approval. Recovery is bad, undesired, and one should always be a system. Fusion is evil, and being one person is almost equal to murder. Introject. To us, this term meant fictional characters or famous people, and polyfragmentation. To us, this meant systems with a bunch of alters with super intricate developed personalities. These were the most common and normal thing in the world, and magically, everyone had hundreds of alters overnight. Everyone else is responsible for handling your triggers and walking on eggshells around you. If they don't, that's abuse. I remember some servers having trigger lists, which were bullet lists of things that were banned from being said in the servers, with dozens of entries, ranging from general topics to the word okay. If you slipped up, you would be shamed. Reality checking and fake claiming is bad. People should let you rot in your delusions, and if they don't, then they are abusers and you should avoid talking to them. If you were faking, then you wouldn't be questioning whether you're faking because you already know. Was the most damaging thing to hear. The number of people I have seen be on the edge of breaking out of their delusion only to be pulled back into the nightmarish pit of validation by strangers with the same craving and addiction is heartbreaking. Self-diagnosis in every case is good. Any symptom is always equal to a disorder that has to be labeled and put into a pretty jar that you show off to everyone who comes across your message in the alter introduction channel. Subreddits like this one are evil, hateful places that you should never go to, look at, never consume, and never dare agree with. If you disregarded any of these unspoken rules, you were called an abuser or fake claimer, cast out, bombarded with people convincing you that you were wrong and that your intentions are malicious and you are a hateful person. Any slight misstep could end up with being stabbed in the stomach by adults you saw as gods of these digital cults. So, like many, in an attempt to garner validation, I would shove myself into however or whatever would hear me out. I would post DID content on Tumblr and Instagram. I would post self-validation on this subreddit or r/system cringe. I would freak out if anyone called out my BS. At some point, I had around 300 plus alters and identified as a polyfragmented introduct heavy OSDD1B system. I would try to convince anyone I could that this was a very rational thing for me to be. After a year of faking DID, I left all those big servers. Probably over some drama that meant nothing. I deleted all of my DID-oriented social media, which was an incredible decision. I stayed in small servers of quote-unquote systems that were less cultish, but still had validation farms for their owners. Unbelievably, away from the echo chambers we were used to, we actually started gaining common sense. It was difficult, but many of us started accepting that we never even had DID, that we are simply sick in different ways. For some of us, often the ones in therapy with real friends or support systems, the transition to being a single person again was easier. But for others like me, it was more difficult. It had been a year and a half that I had been faking DID, and my transition began with the deletion of most of my alters from my plural kit, keeping only the quote-unquote active ones, until I deleted my plural kit entirely, which single-handedly put me on track for getting my life back. I made real friends, stopped saying that I was a system on Discord until one day I could say, without fear of being hated and shamed, that I wasn't. I felt horrible about what I had done. I knew that it was a moment of desperation, a shared delusion I was unfortunate enough to get sucked into. But honestly, all I could think about was that people with real DID have to go through this on a daily basis. No medical textbook I had to read, no interview I watched would ever come close to the horrors of their daily lives, and I felt ashamed ever trying to mimic their lives in a vain attempt to get the love that I was craving. I felt empty. My alters were so distinct. They all had likes and interests that no longer felt appealing to me. I didn't even know what music I liked, what things I liked to eat, what I wanted to be called, or what clothes I wanted to wear. It used to come so natural with whatever alter I thought I was on any given morning, but now that I knew I had always been all of them, nothing came to mind. I would look for symptoms in everything. It is a mindset that to this day is difficult to get rid of. There's a lot that I haven't mentioned, but I'm not gonna post about any of this again. Maybe someday I'll write a book or something. I'm doing better now. I have friends. My relationship with my parents have significantly improved. I deleted Discord in September of 2022, which was the best decision I have ever made. I am still suffering mentally, but I am 4 months SH free. I'm considering coming out as transgender and seeking treatment for my mental health. My social skills are recovering, and I am finally learning things about myself. I still think about how easy it used to feel, and I do want to go back sometimes. DID faking was surprisingly similar to me to what an addiction feels like, but I have to set my mind to never relapse into it. If you are reading this and you identify as a system but are not diagnosed, I am not here to dismiss your symptoms. All I ask is for you to put down your social media for a week and reflect. Don't think about your symptoms and what they mean. Think about who you are as a person, who you are without whatever disorder you believe you have. And now I'm ready to move on. People in the comments of this thread are talking about how they have situations in their life that are similar, that they know people who are experiencing similar things. It's hard because people can be so deep into their behavior that they can be incredibly resistant to hearing things that go against their worldview. It'll usually take several confrontations of something that's causing major cognitive dissonance before someone will consider the other perspective. The way that these servers make DID look seductive and attention grabbing is very disturbing. I will say though that there are a lot of great servers out there. We're just talking about the ones that are not that great. And the way that this server was described and compared to a cult is oddly accurate. Classic cults are usually formed around one main figure. It's a little more decentralized, but psychology is pretty one for one. It makes you question whether counseling techniques for this might be helpful. It's not exactly like a cult, but it has similarities like echo chambers, casting out people who disagree, a common belief that certain things like fake claiming are bad, and people in higher positions who have hierarchy over people who are in lower positions. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that one. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, turn the bell on if you're feeling risky. Let me know if any of you guys have had any sort of experience with fakers. I have never met one in real life. It would be very educational though, with peace and love. If you're a faker, you're not a bad person. Thank you so much to each and every one of my members. I appreciate each and every one of you every single day. Have a fabulous day, night, whatever the case may be, and peace out.